Crack open a cold can of White Monster on a hot afternoon, and the first thing you notice is the hiss. A clean, crisp fizz, almost frosty, like biting into something made of sugar and snow. The taste is light and bright, a little citrus, a little candy. Nothing heavy, nothing dark. It goes down cool and easy, and somewhere in the middle of it, the energy quietly switches on. People say it tastes like nothing else on the shelf, and they're right. Now picture this. Every single day, this company makes enough energy drinks to fill more than 1 billion cans a year. That's more cans than there are people in North and South America combined. And the white one you love so much, the one fans simply call White Monster, rolls off the same roaring lines as all the rest. So today, I'm taking you inside the factory where it's born. You'll see the strange reason this drink is almost completely clear inside the can. You'll see the one ingredient that has to be added ice cold, or the whole batch foams over and is lost. And near the very end of this video, I'll show you exactly what happens to the cans that fail the final test, the ones that never reach your hands. Stay with me because the answer surprised me. If you're enjoying watching how things are really made, do me a favor. Grab that like button, carbonate it until it fizzes, chill it down to just above freezing, and seal it inside a shiny white can on the line. And if you love finding out how the everyday things in your fridge are really made, this is your home now, so make sure you're subscribed. Now, let's step onto the floor. It all starts with water. That might sound boring, but in this factory, water is the most controlled thing in the entire building. A can of White Monster is mostly water, so if the water is wrong, everything is wrong. The water arrives from the city, but it is nowhere near clean enough yet. So it travels through a wall of filters, layer after layer, each one finer than the last. First, the water passes through carbon, which grabs onto anything that might carry an off taste or smell. Then it's pushed under enormous pressure through a membrane so tight that almost nothing but pure water molecules can squeeze through. This step alone strips out tiny minerals, salts, and anything left behind. By the time it's done, the water is so pure it's almost blank. A clean canvas. And that blankness matters more than you'd think, because everything you taste in the final drink has to be added back on purpose, drop by drop. But pure water on its own is flat and lifeless. Before it can become Monster, it has to be woken up, and that wake-up call comes from gas. While the water is being cleaned, in another part of the factory, the bubbles are being made. Carbon dioxide, the same gas that gives soda its fizz, is chilled and pumped under high pressure into the cold water. Here's the trick. Cold water holds onto gas far better than warm water, so the liquid is kept near freezing because the colder it is, the more bubbles it can swallow and keep. Warm it up too soon, and the gas escapes in a rush. The carbonated water now has that signature sharp bite. Tilt a glass of it and you'd see thousands of tiny bubbles climbing the sides, but it still tastes like almost nothing. It's sparkling and empty and waiting because the real flavor is being mixed somewhere else entirely, in a room most people never get to see. This is where the syrup is born. In huge stainless steel tanks, the flavor base comes together in a thick, concentrated form. Think of it as the soul of the drink, squeezed down small. Sweeteners go in, along with a careful blend of acids that give that tangy, mouth-watering snap. Every tank is mixed to an exact recipe, measured down to fractions of an ounce. 1 ounce too much of one ingredient, and the whole tank tastes off, and it gets dumped. A worker watches the readings the entire time. The mixture has to stay within a tight window. Too sweet and it's sticky and dull. Too sharp and it bites too hard. Get it just right and you've got the heart of a flavor that millions of people crave. But the syrup still isn't finished because the part that makes Monster a monster hasn't gone in yet. Now we reach the ingredient everyone asks about, the energy blend. This is the engine room of the can. Into the mix goes caffeine, the same thing in your morning coffee, but measured here with the precision of a science lab. A single can of White Monster carries about 140 milligrams of caffeine, roughly the same as a strong cup of coffee, but it hits cold and fast. Alongside the caffeine comes taurine, an ingredient with a name that sounds far stranger than it is. Your own body actually makes taurine on its own, and it's found in meat and fish. Here it's added in a clean white powder, dissolved into the blend. Then come the B vitamins, the ones that help your body turn food into fuel. Each one is weighed and added in tiny, careful amounts. But here's the friction. These ingredients are powerful, and the amounts are small. If a machine adds even a little too much, the entire batch has to be thrown away, no questions asked. So every drop is checked and then checked again. There's no room for guessing when millions of people are about to drink it. So the energy is in, the bubbles are ready, the syrup is rich and waiting, but we still haven't answered the biggest question of all. Why is White Monster white? Or rather, why is it almost completely clear? Here's the secret. The original Green Monster is dark, loud, and heavy on the tongue. When the company set out to make Ultra, the line that White Monster belongs to, they wanted the opposite. Light, crisp, almost see-through. So instead of building it dark, they built it pale. The flavor leans on bright citrus notes, like a whisper of lemon and lime, with a soft sweetness behind it. And because there's no heavy coloring added, the liquid stays nearly clear, like sparkling water with a glow. That's the strange thing you'd notice if you ever poured it into a glass. It looks almost like nothing, but that clearness is the whole point. It signals lightness before you even take a sip. The pale look is part of the promise. And keeping it that clean and consistent, can after can, is harder than making any bright colored drink. One stray bit of color from a dirty tank and the batch is ruined. But before any of this liquid can meet a can, the can itself has to be made, and the story of that can is wilder than you'd expect. Travel to the other end of the plant, and the cans arrive not as cans, but as a single giant coil of aluminum. One coil can stretch for miles if you unrolled it. Machines punch flat discs out of the sheet, then push and stretch them upward into the tall cylinder shape, you know. It happens so fast, the human eye can barely follow it. Hundreds of cans take shape every single minute, climbing up out of flat metal like magic. Then the printing begins. The bold white body, the clean lettering, the famous monster claw mark, all of it is sprayed and baked onto the outside in a blur of color. The cans race past the printers in a silver and white river, and here's a number that stops people cold. The lines in a plant like this can fill and seal well over 1,000 cans every single minute. That's faster than you can count, faster than you can blink between cans. Each empty can is checked for the tiniest dent or flaw. A bad can means a bad seal, and a bad seal means a leak. So cameras scan every one as it flies by, kicking out any that don't pass. But an empty, perfect can is only half the battle. Now it has to be filled, and that's where speed becomes everything. Before we watch the filling, let me tell you how this whole thing even started. Because the company behind Monster wasn't always a giant. Back in the early 2000s, one energy drink ruled the world, a small silver and blue can from Austria that you've surely heard of. Monster came along in 2002 as the challenger, the underdog. Instead of a small can, they did something simple and bold. They made theirs bigger. A huge 16-ounce can for the same kind of price, with that ripped green claw mark slashed across the front, like a monster had clawed its way out from the inside. That claw, those 3 green slashes, became one of the most recognized marks in the world. Kids drew it on notebooks. It showed up on race cars and skateboards and stages. The underdog grew and grew until it stood toe-to-toe with the giant it once chased. Not bad for a drink that started as the little guy. But back on the factory floor, the cans are lining up and the liquid is finally ready to meet them. Now everything starts coming together. The chilled, carbonated, flavored, energized liquid flows toward the filling line. The cans spin into place on a giant rotating wheel, dozens at a time, like seats on a carousel. As each can lines up under a nozzle, it's filled in a fraction of a second. Then, almost instantly, a lid is dropped on top and sealed tight in one smooth crushing motion. And this is where that ice-cold rule pays off. Remember, the colder the liquid, the more bubbles it holds, so the drink is filled while it's still freezing cold, which keeps the fizz locked inside. If it warmed up now, the gas would burst out and foam over, and you'd lose half the can to froth. Cold is the only way it works. That's the ingredient secret I promised you, the cold fill that keeps the magic trapped. The sealed cans rush out in a glittering white stream, hundreds upon hundreds, all racing toward the next station. Watching it from above, it looks less like a factory and more like a river of light. And every one of those cans now carries the exact same taste. That's the real wonder here. The one you buy in one country tastes like the one bought halfway across the world. Same snap, same brightness, same cool finish every single time. That sameness is no accident. It comes from a wild bit of history. There was a time many years ago when one of the most famous soda companies on earth tried to change its classic recipe. Fans revolted. People were furious that their favorite taste had shifted even slightly. The lesson the whole drinks world learned was simple and permanent. Never mess with the taste people love. So today, factories guard their recipes like treasure, and they test endlessly to make sure nothing drifts. The drink you loved last year has to taste the same this year. But back on the floor, those freshly sealed cans still have to prove themselves before they're allowed to leave. This is the moment everything has been building toward. The full cans glide into the testing zone, and here the factory gets strict. First, each can is weighed. If it's even slightly too light or too heavy, it means the fill was off, and that can is pulled. Then the cans are checked for pressure, because a properly carbonated can has a firm, springy feel under the lid. A weak can means lost fizz. A swollen one means trouble inside. The cans warm up just enough to be tested, then they're scanned, weighed, and watched by cameras one final time. Codes are printed on the bottom, the date and batch, so any single can could be traced right back to the day and hour it was made. Everything that started as pure water, loose gas, and careful powder has now become the cold, bright, fizzy drink you know. The loops have all closed. The water, the bubbles, the syrup, the energy, the clear pale color, all of it sealed inside one perfect white can. And now, the answer I promised you at the start. What happens to the cans that fail? The ones that are too light, too flat, dented, or mislabeled? They don't get sold and they don't go on a shelf. They get pulled off the line and crushed, and the aluminum is sent off to be melted down and recycled, often becoming brand new cans within weeks. So a can that failed today might come back as a perfect can next month. Nothing is wasted. The factory eats its own mistakes and starts again. The cans that pass are gathered, wrapped, stacked onto pallets, and loaded onto trucks that fan out across the country. From a coil of metal and a tank of pure water to the cold can in your hand, the whole journey can happen in less than a day. So here's your souvenir, the thing to remember next time you crack one open. That clear, almost colorless look isn't an accident or a mistake. It's the entire point. It's the factory telling you, before you even taste it, that this one is meant to be light. Now you'll never look at a white monster the same way again. So tell me in the comments, do you drink White Monster for the energy or really just for the taste? I have a feeling I already know the answer. And if you want to see another everyday favorite taken apart piece by piece, stick around because the next factory we step inside might be hiding in your kitchen right now. Thanks for watching.